My name is Emily Sawyer, and today I would like to talk to you about special education. I am a college student advocate for the funding of special education facilities, also called developmental programs. Maybe not surprisingly, I'm also a developmental preschool teacher. So I guess you could say I have an insider's point of view on Maine's deficits when it comes to special education. A regular classroom has its own set of challenges, but a developmental classroom has its own unique hurdles. If we were to go over all of them, this video would take all night, so let's just start with a few. First of all, what exactly is special education? Developmental programs serve children who are identified as having impairments that prevent them from functioning in a typical classroom. These could include disabilities such as spina bifida, cerebral palsy, budding psychological disorders and behaviors, as well as autism. In Maine, kids with unique sets of needs are placed in the same classroom together. This is why low ratios in developmental classrooms are so important. This means fewer kids to more teachers. There needs to be enough classroom support to go around. And that brings us to our next point. According to the Rand Research Institute, programs with better trained caregivers has been found to be more effective. This means that special educators are not only teachers, but are also able to understand and focus on the unique needs of the children they serve. This means education on top of education. We either need to allow the school's budget to give better ongoing education to its staff members, or pay them enough to afford the education needed to work for that program. And that brings us to the main issue. According to Maine.gov, there are roughly 2,500 children in the state of Maine with disabilities awaiting services. That means they don't have access to a type of education called early intervention. And this is during a very critical period of time in childhood growth and development. Tons of empirical research out there indicating the importance of early intervention for a child. But let's look at the research of Dr. John Sparling from the Journal of Applied Developmental Science.
Children who received early intervention services in an appropriate setting were less likely to need special education during adulthood, as well as reported fewer arrests, school incompletions, and welfare assistance.
Additionally, the social, emotional, psychological harm caused to a child who is within a disability program that isn't receiving a proper care can be devastating. Take, for example, my personal story. Dimitri came into my classroom at 3 years old with level 1 autism and speaking no English and had never been to school. He was placed in our program so that he could receive speech services during his class time to help him express his needs and to socialize. And due to a funding shortage, CDS had no speech therapists to offer him. So over the course of several months, we watched Dimitri develop fear and anxiety, attachment disorder, and then he became isolated. We teachers did what we could with the resources that we had, but we're also not trained speech therapists, so there's only so much that we could do for him. So this is just one example of the consequences brought on by financial deficits. And we must find a way to effectively address this so kids like Dimitri can get the speech services that they need within disability programs. There is currently a bill proposal in Maine that child development services be shut down, private for-profit and non-profit developmental programs close, and the special education system be absorbed and run exclusively by the Department of Education. Now, Bill 1870 is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just been poorly written. There is no plan for how local school districts alone could take on everything CDS does, which could cause children who are already waiting to have nowhere to go indefinitely. Where is the funding going to come from? When all the private schools have to close, where are all the children going to go? And what about the family's right to choose the best program, style, and philosophy for them? There are a lot of questions and very few answers. It is critical that we do not allow it to pass as it is, at least not without some serious revision. So I guess the biggest question is, why should you care? Maybe this doesn't seem like an issue that applies to you. It's not like we're all part of the special needs community. But let me tell you why it does. Children without sufficient early intervention end up requiring more state services later in life. That means more crime, more welfare, more adult care, and way more taxes. Funding quality programming now will prevent a much bigger cost in the future. It's a proactive way of staying on top of a bigger issue. But most importantly, this is your community, and the people with the tiniest voice or no voice at all need your help. Write to your legislators and tell them you want a revision of LD 1870, because children should matter.